There's Mr. Zernich. There's Mr. Hoffland. Wait for Mr. Tody to join us back. And then Mr. Zernich, I have a question for you and Mr. Tody before we Mr. Hoffland. Questions?
Okay, Your Honor.
Mr. Tody's back with us. We're back on the record. Mr. Tody, I told Mr. Zernich a question for both of you before we continue. Is perhaps your issue with the My Left Foot documents, the social history or the medical history? Would you have any objection to those documents being admitted if I did not consider the history reported by the petitioner, Mr. Zernich, Mr. Tody, so that I could consider the plan of treatment, the dates of the treatment that he's been going, those issues. Mr. Zernich?
Yeah, I have no objection to that. It's just the inability to really get into the details, and then the reliance just upon Ms. Ho giving any testimony she wants, supporting it with some records that we had no real opportunity to examine or to know whether we have a full set. We do not doubt the fact that Jaden is receiving this treatment. So from your standpoint, I have no objection.
All right, Mr. Tody, does that satisfy your concerns?
It does, Judge.
All right, and I can understand because for everybody's benefit, the concern of Mr. Zernich and Mr. Tody, it occurred to me, was probably that these records reflect a history for Jaden, and that history was given by Ting Ho. And they may have some objections or concerns about that history. Their objections or concerns are probably not that he has, in fact, received this occupational therapy or that the diagnosis or course or treatment is as it says it was. And so, Mr. Hoffland, if you don't have any objections to that agreement, I'm happy to stipulate to the admission of these documents with the understanding that this patient history that, other than, let me say this, because on the first page it says, mother reports concerns with coordination, unable to ride a bike, etc. So I don't think your concern, Mr. Tody and Mr. Zernich, are those issues, but the issues regarding your clients. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Hoffland, do you have any objections or concerns with that?
No, Your Honor.
All right. That'll be the agreement, and they will be admitted into evidence. Continue, Mr. Hoffland.
Your Honor, attached to that as well, there's a document from Desert Valley Pediatrics, in which this morning actually received by mail a notarized document from their certificate of the custodial records, and that was the one which is attached as base stamp number TH000549, so I can make that representation.
Counsel, any objection? The document from Desert Valley Peds 5449, Mr. Zernich.
Which exhibit can we find it in?
It's at the very end of this exhibit.
Judge, I'm not going to have an objection.
Mr. Zernich?
No objection to that one, Your Honor.
That document will also be admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Counsel. So, Jaden's been with you since September of 2000, or excuse me, since October 2016. Who is the person that's taking him to all of his medical appointments?
I did. I am.
And so each time you take him, you take him to doctor's appointments. Why do you take him?
Just well care, flu shots, and then also for his therapy, his diagnosis of ADHD and ODD.
And after you received this information from the doctors, did you work with Jaden regarding this information you received from the doctors?
Yes, as this letter states.
We're not going to.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
I just want to know what you did. Did you follow the
Yeah.
recommendations? Have you worked with them?
Yes, I followed the recommendations, and I've been working with.
And how is that going when you work with them?
It's going very well.
So,
He has improvements every day.
are you able to address the medical concerns to the doctor and achieve results?
Yes.
And how is it working with Jaden? Does he respond to you?
Yes, he does.
How did it become that you became the temporary guardian of Jaden?
I believe it was March of 2018. Jaden's father, Rex, he is a professional poker player, so he travels a lot. And just to make sure, like if he's out of the country or if he's out of the state, that I have the legal right to take him to, the hospital, or to the doctor or to school and stuff like that, just to make sure that I can, take him to the things that he needs, and for emergencies, of course.
Well, let's go back. Since you've had this temporary guardianship, and how many have you had?
It's been renewed every 6 months until Judge Marquis issued the temporary guardianship to the courts.
And when was the first one issued?
I believe March of 2018.
And so, since March of 2018, what, if anything, have you done regarding providing food and shelter and clothing and medical care for Jaden? What, if anything, have you done regarding providing food, shelter, clothing, and medical care for Jaden?
I've done all of it. I've done every single thing on there. Like he outgrows his clothes very often. So I buy clothes. I make sure he eats. I cook. He lives in a house. I'm sorry, I don't really.
And so, what, if anything, you've done regarding the special needs of Jaden since this period of time?
I take him to his occupational therapy twice a week, and also he has cognitive behavioral therapy once a week.
And have you ever engaged in a habitual use of alcohol or controlled substances?
No.
Have you ever been convicted of a crime of moral turpitude?
No.
Of domestic violence?
No.
Abuse, neglect, or exploitation, or isolation, or abandonment of a minor?
No.
Have you ever been convicted in this state or any other state of a felony?
No.
Have you ever engaged in any acts of domestic violence against a protected minor?
No.
The parents of the proposed protected minor?
No.
Or any other person that resides with the proposed protected minor?
No.
Okay, let's go and start talking about Kaylee. When did you meet Kaylee?
I believe I met Kaylee in early 2017.
And how did it come about that you met Kaylee?
It was after the CPS closed, and she reached out for I'm sorry. Can I change my answer? I just remembered. It was actually during the CPS case. She did attend one visitation when the CPS case was still open, and it was either late 2016 or early 2017, and it was at the Flamingo Ice Rink. That's when I met her.
And so how was it the first time that you met her?
She reached out and she wanted a visitation.
Who was there with you?
Rex, Jaden, and me. And Kaylee, of course.
How was the visitation?
It was fine.
And when was the next time that you saw Kaylee?
The next time, that's I believe was in 2017. It was at Exploration Park. and it was also a supervised visitation.
Let's talk about this. When did the CPS case close?
The CPS case closed March of 2017, and then the order, I believe, was signed in April of 2017.
And how do you know that?
Because I attended the hearing. I was present.
And what was your understanding after the hearing that you attended?
That Rex had full physical and legal custody, and Kaylee had supervised visitation, reasonable supervised visitation up to Rex's discretion.
Were you aware of the allegations against Kaylee in the CPS case?
Yes, I was.
How were you informed about those allegations?
I was present in court.
And what was your understanding of those allegations?
That she was charged with, I don't know the technical terms, but basically being abusive to Jaden, and she had drugs on her. That's pretty much it. Pretty much just because she was abusive to the child.
And so, in addition to attending the hearings, was there any other involvement you had with the CPS case?
Yes, the CPS worker vetted me, got my information, met with me, and was in constant communication with me.
About how many times did you meet with the CPS worker in person, or did you over the phone?
Both. She came to our house a couple of times, and by email a few times, and then on the telephone a few times.
And you said that you met the caseworker, and you had conversations with the caseworker. Were those before Jaden came to live with you, or after Jaden came to live with you?
Both. Before Jaden came to live. Oh, sorry, apologize. Before Jaden. Sorry. Before Jaden came to live with me, the CPS worker did get all my information and kind of like checked my background, vetted me. I guess that's the proper term. And so it was before the CPS closed. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot the question. Sorry.
That's all right. Everybody take a deep breath. I know everybody's nervous. No need to apologize to me, all right? Mr. Hoffman, Mr. Zernich, Mr. Tody, and I were, old hats at all this, okay? But we know that you're nervous, so take a deep breath. Everybody's doing a great job. Belinda and Kaylee are going to have the same concerns when it's their time too. Doing all right. Go ahead, Mr. Hoffman.
Thank you, Honor. Thank you, Counsel.
For calling you old?
Yes, Judge. Have you ever been investigated by CPS for any complaints after November 2016?
No.
Okay. Going back to Kaylee, you just testified that after the CPS case was closed in March of 2017, that her next visit with Jaden was sometime after that. When was the next visit?
I want to say June, maybe June. It was definitely after his birthday and after my trip to Buffalo. I would say June, approximately June, yes.
Of 2017, Mr. Hoffman?
2017.
Correct. And when is Jaden's birthday?
Jaden's birthday is April 13th, 2012.
Okay, so how did it become that you met up with Kaylee in June of 2017?
She reached out and said she would like a visit.
How did she reach out to you?
Via text message.
Where was the visit?
At Exploration Park.
Who was there at the visit?
Me, Jaden, and Kaylee.
How was the visit?
It was fine.
And how long was the visit?
The visit was an hour.
When was the next time that you saw Kaylee for a visit with Jaden after the June of 2017 visit?
Honestly, I don't remember. It was so long ago, and she sees him just kind of on and off, so I don't really remember the exact date.
So was it right afterwards, or was it after?
Usually, it's a month or so in between.
Okay. How did it become that you met up with Kaylee again after that for a visit?
Christmas time, we had dinner together at a restaurant. Me, Kaylee, Bonnie, Jaden. It was pleasant. We went to an Italian restaurant, Nora's, I believe.
And that was was that in 2017?
I want to say it was in 2017.
Okay. And going back to 2017, how many visits did Kaylee have with Jaden in 2017?
Probably between 4 and 6.
And each one of these visits, were you there? Did you supervise every visit?
Yes, I supervised every visit.
Why did you supervise every visit?
Because her visits has to be supervised.
So you followed the recommendation
Yes,
by CPS?
By the courts, yes.
And what about in 2018? How many visits did Kaylee have with Jaden?
Probably about 6.
And was it the same protocol in 2018 that was followed in 2017,
Yes.
where Kaylee would reach out to you by text and you respond?
Yes, correct.
And that you would supervise each one of the visits?
Correct.
And the visits were for how long?
An hour. Well, sometimes 2 hours if she decides she wants to do a movie visit. If she wanted to go to the movies, then it would be 2 hours.
In 2019, how many visits did Kaylee have with Jaden?
In 2019,
And how do you know?
that is easier for me because I have that in my phone log.
Okay, and
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I didn't hear that answer about.
Oh, sorry.
what you said.
I said that one is easy for me because
What was before that? What was the answer before that?
that it was 9 visits to
9
in 2000, yeah, and that's easy for me to come to because I have from the beginning of 2019, I have every single text message, so that's easy for me to figure out. So I know for certain that is 9.
okay, and those documents were provided through the, and those have been admitted into evidence, correct?
Correct.
And those are exhibit number 2. Right here. Take a look at exhibit number 2, which have been admitted.
Yes, those are all every single text message.
From 2019 going forward.
February, yes. Yes, at the very beginning when I changed phones and I texted Kaylee.
All right, and from those,
Counsel, will you just clarify that the green, I believe, is Ting and the gray is Kaylee. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right, continue.
thank you. From these text messages in exhibit number 2, did you create a log?
Yes, I did.
When did you create a log?
I created it, I think maybe in November, but I updated it up until I believe like the end of February.
And those are which are marked and is identified in proposed exhibit
4, I believe.
number 4. Okay, and looking at proposed exhibit number 4, looking at this document, you can tell the court when you created this document and how you created it.
It's December 2nd, I created it. Just a log of, it's like a communication log of Kaylee's visits, 2019 as the first page, second page as well, third page as well. And then also the next one was also December 2nd, and that was for 2020, the visitation log. And the next one, that one was like a communication log. And then the number TH000291 is a spreadsheet of every single visit that she made and either attended or didn't show up.
So proposed exhibit number 4, it's just a compilation of all the information in exhibit number 2 and 3.
Correct.
Move for admission of exhibit, proposed exhibit number 4.
Mr. Zernich.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I objected to this exhibit because I don't think that it is a reliable exhibit. It's just a log made by Ms. Ho, or allegedly made by Ms. Ho, without knowledge prior to this of when it was made. But primarily, Your Honor, I understand the fact that a summary of such a voluminous set of exhibits might be an appropriate thing to do, except we have to consider that for me to verify the accuracy of this log compared to Bates number 5 all the way, I mean, I don't know how many hundreds of text messages for an exhibit that was produced on March 1st. I had no time and or ability to be able to verify the accuracy of this log. Therefore, I object to it, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Zernich, let me break it down a little bit further because it appears to be a couple different summaries within that exhibit. And so I just want to make sure that your objection is the same for all of those summaries. From the beginning, she starts with, kind of a summary of the communication. But then when we move to the Excel spreadsheet, which is 00291, that's the visitation date, the outcome, and then a comment of, the location of the visit, and maybe some details like the first one, visit was at 10:30, Kaylee texted at 4:37 to cancel. That's a little bit different. Is your objection the same to all of these summary documents? I mean, and I guess the last one's a little easier, right? That's the past 18 months of phone calls.
My objection was the same, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Tody?
I do not have an objection to these summaries, Judge.
All right. I'm going to allow the introduction of the summaries. Mr. Zernich, I'll absolutely allow you to cross-examine her regarding the summaries, but I do note that there are several different summaries of different information that is contained within those voluminous exhibits and records that have been introduced into evidence via stipulation. And as you noted, they are absolutely voluminous. I could create this summary on my own. However, it might take me, 3 years to do that. Or 3 hours. So I was exaggerating. I apologize. So I am going to allow them, but I'll certainly, if I have any questions, rely on the source documents and allow Mr. Zernich the opportunity to cross-examine regarding those source documents. And I note that Mr. Zernich and his client have access to those source documents. They are based in part or in whole on Kaylee's own text messages and call logs, which she always has access to, and were produced in this case. Go ahead, Mr. Hoffman.
Thank you, Your Honor. Okay, looking at exhibit number 4, Bates stamp number TH000287. Is this the document in which you make reference to that she had 9 visits with Jaden in 2019?
Yes, correct.
In 2020, how many visits did Kaylee have with Jaden?
She had up until November, she had 7. And then total by the end of December, it was 10. So she had 10 total.
Okay, so to support representation, take a look at base stamp number in the same exhibit, exhibit number 4, base stamp number TH000290.
Yeah.
Is this the document making reference to that she had 7 visits with Jaden up to December 1st of 2020?
Correct.
And as of today's date, so I have an understanding, in 2020 she had 10 visits for the entire year?
Mm-hmm. Yes, 10.
And how many visits did Kaylee have with Jaden in 2021?
I wrote it down.
No, you can't see my notes.
let me see. By then we had set it to every other weekend, so she made all of them but one. So, yeah, I can look at my calendar, but I don't know off the top of my head. But every single one she made except for one.
In 2021.
Yes, in 2021, she made all of them except for one.
All right. So after the court became involved in this, and you filed for guardianship, has she exercised each one of the visits with? Has Kaylee exercised each one of her visits with Jaden?
Yes, she has. After we filed, she has exercised every visit except for one, and that was this year. And then, and she also had extra visits like Christmas. Can I say that? Yeah, like Christmas. She had a Christmas visit as well.
And what's the one visit? What's the visitation protocol?
She has to confirm on Thursday that she will attend her visit on Saturday, and if there are going to be any other relatives coming with her, I need to know by Thursday so that I can kind of prepare Jaden to let him know.
And when did you come up with this agreement?
We came up with this agreement in June of 2020.
Why did you come up with that agreement?
Well, she was very inconsistent before then, and a lot of times Jaden and I would show up at the park, and she would not be there. I would text her that we're here, and she would say, "Oh, I'm tired, I forgot." And so it got to the point where Jaden and I would be there, and he would be very disappointed that we went all the way out there and no visit occurred. So to make it easier, and Kaylee had wanted more structure, so we decided it was going to be every other weekend so that it would be hard to forget.
So I have an understanding regarding the durations of the visits. You testified before that there's a couple visits where there were 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, what's the duration of the visit?
Right now, the duration of the visit is 2 hours. We extended it to 2 hours.
When did the duration of the visits extend from 1 hour to 2 hours?
End of February.
And why were they extended from 1 hour to 2 hours?
She wanted it, and I thought, okay, we can give it a try to kind of see how it would go.
February of what year, Council?
This year,
Of 2021?
2021.
You know what? I want to go back to that one visit. Maybe I glossed over this a little quickly.
Okay.
Is that after this action was filed, there was a missed visit.
Uh-huh.
When did that missed visit occur?
That missed visit occurred the weekend of New Year's.
So what happened? Did she give you the notice on the Thursday?
She did not give me notice on Thursday, and then nothing on Friday. And then Saturday, the morning that she's supposed to have the visit, she called to reschedule. I was actually dealing with something and didn't have time to text her back, and she got upset. But that visit was canceled because she did not confirm on Thursday or Friday and wanted to cancel on Saturday or reschedule.
All right. So I have an understanding. Would it be fair to say, as you testified previously, that Kaylee had 4 visits in 2017,
Correct.
6 visits in 2018,
Correct.
9 visits in 2019,
Correct.
10 visits in 2020,
Correct.
and 5 visits or every other weekend in 2021, so about 5 visits in 2021?
Correct.
So it'd be fair to say from 2017 to 2021, Kaylee had about 34 visits with Jaden.
Correct.
And each one of these visits, with the exception of a few visits, was about an hour in length.
Correct.
So she had 34 visits. If it was an hour visit, she had approximately 34 hours of contact with Kaylee had 34 hours worth of contact with Jaden since November of 2016 that
Correct.
you supervised.
Correct.
Adding in a couple visits that you had, which were 2 hours in length, let's say that there was 4 or 5 movies,
Correct.
you would have 5 hours onto it to be,
40 hours.
So-
39 40 hours, yes.
so about 40 hours.
Correct.
And Jaden's been with you for about 4.5 years?
Correct. Every day.
And it's fair to say that if you divided all the days out, put it all together, and if you trust my math, is that that's about 39,000 hours.
Correct.
And so if you divide 30 hours or 40 hours into 39,000 hours, she's had just about 0.000093 percentage of the time.
Correct.
Who, if anyone else, has supervised Jaden's visits with Kaylee?
Sometimes I have Bonnie come with me if she's in town visiting. Occasionally, a friend would come supervise the visits with me.
And during these visits, did she always exercise the 1 to 2 hours?
Sometimes not. Sometimes she cuts it short.
And so, since this action was filed, has she exercised the total duration of all the visits?
Yes and no. I mean, except for that one time in January, which she canceled, she has cut some visits short, or she has showed up late, significantly late, like 45 minutes, but we waited for her. So she's pretty much showed, since we filed, since this case has been going on, she has showed up pretty much most of the time, yeah.
But one time, 45 minutes late?
Yes, one time she was 45 minutes late. Another time she just didn't even tell us until like the morning of Saturday that she didn't want to go.
And so when you were there, the 45 minutes late, where are you and Jaden?
We're just waiting in the car
Where?
at Desert Breeze Park. Oh, she was late actually another time with a Belinda visit. So twice she was late 45 minutes.
Since this action began in December of 2020.
No, one time since December.
When was the other time?
November when Belinda came to visit. That November of 2020.
What, if any, problems have you experienced as a supervisor of Jaden has caused you concern?
There's a few incidences. She knows that it's one incident.
Well,
okay.
Let me just ask you this question.
A few times.
How many?
I would say approximately 6.
Okay, let's try to. What are the problems? These 6 types of problems, if we just put them into categories.
She would run away from me when she knows it's supposed to be supervised. So I have to chase her. And then sometimes she has anger management issues. When Jaden knocks over her drinks, she gets upset. She's on her phone a lot. So one time Jaden fell off the monkey bars and she wasn't aware of the situation. She had no idea what occurred. Bonnie was there and I was there for that visit. And then sometimes during the movie visits, she would get.
Well, let me just make it simple.
Okay.
Can we talk about problems like at different locations?
Okay.
So can you tell me of the 3 or the 6 different occasions? I mean, you just spoke of several of those.
Sorry. Uh-huh.
Where did these? Well, maybe the question's better asked this way. Where are the locations where Kaylee's supervised visitation with Jaden? Where have those taken place?
One incident that I remember.
My question to you is
okay.
not to describe incidents. My question to you is where are the locations?
Circus, Adventure Dome, the Adventure Dome at Circus, the Desert Breeze Park, movie theaters, ice skating rink. Yeah, that's what I can think of right now.
Why don't I ask you the question this way? Was there any problems when was the visit at Circus?
I believe it was in 2018. It was 2018.
Okay. And when you were at Circus, the visitation, how did that visitation go?
It was difficult at the beginning. Bonnie was with me at that visit, and she wanted to take him to the Adventure Dome, and I agreed. Probably wasn't the best idea because it's a very large area. And she would take him and she would run very fast, and I would have to chase them, even though she knows it's supervised. So I literally chased her all around Adventure Dome, and that was for a while, and then she kind of gave up because she didn't lose me, and eventually it kind of went okay from there. It kind of settled in.
And so how long was the visit at Circus?
A few hours. I don't really remember, maybe 2. It was a longer visit. We didn't really set a time limit then.
Was there a crowd of people?
Yes, there was a lot of people at Adventure Dome.
So were you concerned?
Yes, I was very concerned.
Was it difficult for you?
Yes, it was difficult.
Do you believe it created problems for you?
Yes, it did.
Right. You mentioned that there were some visits at the movie theater. When were the visits at the movie theater?
They're sporadic. Before the pandemic, a lot of the visits were at movie theaters.
And while the visits to the movie theater, how did those visits go?
For the most part, it was fine. There was a few incidences where she would get up out of her seat like 3 times throughout the movie, and she would come back smelling like marijuana.
Did that cause you concern?
Yes, it did.
Was that each time you went to the movie that she would smell like marijuana and leave?
I wouldn't say each time. It's not every time, but it was quite a few times.
Quite a few times, meaning
That I can recall 3.
3 different times?
3 different times,
At
yeah.
3 different movie theaters where she got up?
2 different movie theaters, 2 times at Palms and 1 time at Orleans.
Did you mention anything to Kaylee about her smelling of marijuana when she got up?
No, it was at the end, and we just kind of part ways.
Did you have a concern?
Yes, I did.
Why?
Well, I don't know. Just drugs around kids are probably not a good idea.
You said that there was problems. You talked about a drink incident. What happened with it? When was that?
This was in 2019. It's at Desert Breeze Park, and Kaylee would buy Taco Bell, ask Jaden if he wanted to eat something before, and she would bring him some snacks, and she had brought herself a Taco Bell drink. If I remember correctly, I think it's Mountain Dew. And Jaden, being not aware of a lot of things, and he does spill things quite often, he knocked over her drink off of the table, and she was very agitated. She was mad at him.
And how did he react? What did you see?
I can't really say how he reacted because I don't really remember, but she did compose herself afterwards, but she did get visibly agitated and kind of yelled at him, scolded him. Not really yelled, just kind of scolded him.
And how do you address it? Does this happen frequently? Does he knock over drinks?
Yes, it happens quite frequently.
And so what happens have you ever scolded him for knocking over a drink?
I tell him that he needs to focus. We came up with a red zone, yellow zone, green zone of where he should put his drinks and stuff.
And is there a punishment that when he knocks over the drinks, or?
No, just that he needs to be careful, and then we review the red zone, yellow zone, and green zone of where he should put his drinks.
Mr. Hoffman, is that an idea for the zones? Did that come from a therapist or occupational therapist, or was that on your own? How about that?
That was on my own.
All right.
And has he been able to?
I see that he has percipital and some vestibular issues with sensory processing that impact this issue. Are there other situations where you created similar zones or prompting to help him focus on where his body is in space?
Well, we work on exercises so that he builds more awareness of his functions. So we have exercises that we do, and then his main thing really is just not knowing where things are. So we just tell him that to slow down. And that's something that his pediatrician and his occupational therapist and I have discussed, that he also, because he has ADHD, so it kind of compounds the problem, and he's moving so fast before his brain has time to really process it. His hands are already moving, so before his brain can process that here's the phone, he already knocked it over. So it's just slowing down. Like, we give him the tools he needs to breathe, and he needs to slow everything down.
So when you talk about those exercises and tools, are those created for you or prompted by the occupational therapist, or is that some stuff you're coming up on your own?
Both. The occupational therapist gives us some things that we should work on at home, and then also I do a lot of research on the internet, and then discuss it with his pediatrician.
All right. And so when you talk about these exercises and focus, and you said you're doing some research, you're mostly doing that on the internet, or do you have any other books or other resources that you're using for
Books
that?
and resources. Like, I'm part of a lot of groups, parents who have kids with ADHD, so we can discuss what has worked with other kids. Maybe we can implement it and we can try. So a lot of groups. I'm part of 3 different groups, and then books people recommend that they think has been beneficial. We share ideas and share books, and then of course I discuss it with his pediatrician and his occupational therapist as well.
So while we're on this, I just have a couple more questions.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about working and reviewing the videos and reviewing his homework, how long on average right now, and I know this is after he's been to occupational therapy and cognitive behavioral therapy, and he is taking his Adderall daily, how long right now are you spending every day on average working on his homework and making sure he understands the materials?
Maybe an hour a day. He picks
Okay.
things up actually pretty good. He's quite focused. I would say probably an hour a day seems like a fair answer.
That's all. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Hoffman. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No problem. Anytime, Judge. You previously talked about the monkey bar incident. What was that about?
So this visit, Bonnie and I went to supervise Kaylee's visit. It was also at Desert Breeze Park, and Jaden he wasn't really swinging on the monkey bars. He actually climbed on top of the monkey bars, which I was really watching him very carefully because it seemed very dangerous to me. So he was on top of the monkey bars, and he's not that agile, so he fell. And Bonnie and I ran to him to make sure he was fine. He was fine. He wasn't hurt really. Maybe just a couple scratches. But Kaylee was on her phone a lot, and so she wasn't paying attention, and so she didn't even notice what happened. She didn't notice until after Bonnie and I went to make sure he was fine.
And you mentioned before that there was this running around incident, Circus. Has this occurred at any other visits after that?
Yes, in this year, last month, February 2020, she ran around. This was the first visit after I extended it to 2 hours, and she spent the first 10 minutes running around so that I cannot see her, and she would just take Jaden and run around in circles, because the park it has the play park area, and then it has benches around, and it has a fence, and she would just go around the outside for 10 minutes just running away from me. And she texted me on Talking Parents app saying she needs privacy, for me to stop following them, even though she knows that it's supposed to be supervised. And then she stopped, and then for 15 minutes later, she texted me on Parents app again, asking if we can reschedule to the next day because it was cold. And I agreed. I said, okay, so we rescheduled that visit from Saturday to Sunday.
Since 2000, December of 2016. Well, actually, the first visit was in June of 2017. Since 2017 through February, or now March of 2021, you've supervised each and every visit between Kaylee and Jaden at her request.
Correct. Well, not her request. She doesn't really request me, if that's what you're asking. But she asks for the visit, yes.
She hasn't told you that she's asked somebody else for a visit.
No, she hasn't.
She hasn't told you that she's been denied a visit by somebody else.
No.
So during this period of time, you are the only person that's has been the supervisor of any contact that she's had with Jaden since her first request in June of 2017.
Correct.
So you've seen Kaylee during each one of these visits
Correct.
that you have supervised.
Correct.
What, if any, changes have you seen in Kaylee since the visitation began, her supervised visits began in June of 2017 through today's date?
I have not seen any changes at all. It pretty much parallels the same.
Well, you mentioned some problems, and so what concerns do you have that you've seen as a supervisor since June of 2017 through March of 2021? What concerns do you have?
My concerns is that she doesn't put Jaden as a priority, and therefore she doesn't pay meticulous attention to him. So she doesn't show up on time. She doesn't show up at all. She doesn't have her temper in check, I guess. I don't know how to say it, but like she's just impatient, agitated, and so I feel that with her being like that and Jaden having ADHD, it's a combustible situation.
And what are any other concerns?
Not really, I guess. I don't want her to lose him. I mean, I don't know. Because he does tend to run away too. Like he gets sidetracked. So if you're out somewhere and you don't pay very close, like let's say we're at Disneyland or somewhere and you have to pay very close attention to him because he can be like, oh, hey, look, there's Ditch in this store, and then there he goes. So you really have to put him at 100% attention.
Mr. Toady presented an exhibit, and I believe it's 8A, which is a toxicology report. Have you seen that document?
I have.
And that was a toxicology document taken of Jaden when he was born.
Uh-huh.
And what concerns did you have as Exhibit 8A, which was admitted by stipulation and proposed by Mr. Toady?
That she loves marijuana. She loves drugs, even to the point where she's pregnant and she still has to do it. She doesn't even put Jaden as a priority while he was in her body.
Well, there was a mention of marijuana, that you smelled marijuana a couple times at the movie theater on 2 different occasions, 2 or 3 different occasions.
Correct. What
about during the visits? Did she vape or smoke during the visits?
I've witnessed, and Jaden has witnessed her vaping, not smoking. It's always a mechanism that she has.
And the odor that you smelled on her during the visits at the movie theater, have you smelled those during the other times during the visits?
Yes, yes, I have.
Is that frequent, or is it?
I would say less frequent for the smelling. I think maybe because vaping, you don't really smell it. I don't know because I don't do it. But I haven't smelled it in a while. I haven't smelled it in a while.
What about the marijuana?
I haven't smelled the marijuana in this year. I've seen her with a mechanism, but I haven't actually smelled the odor of marijuana.
What, if anything, do you believe should be changed to the underlying visitation order?
I don't believe anything should be changed.
If the visitation is not supervised, with your experience of supervising the visits for over 4.5 years, do you believe that Jaden would be adversely affected or harmed?
Yes, I do.
Would that be physically and emotionally, or how would that be?
Oh, it would be both, physically and emotionally.
Why?
Well, one, I don't believe, from what I've observed, that Kaylee will pay enough attention to him where he won't get lost, or he won't get injured, or she won't lose her temper with him. And then emotionally, he doesn't want it. And he hasn't built that relationship up yet. So he knows her, but he doesn't really know her. So emotionally, he doesn't feel safe.
Would he take the steps to make sure that he feels safe during the visits with Kaylee? What do you do?
Well, I make sure that he can see me and he knows that I am there for him. Like when she was running around and around, he would look back at me to make sure I'm following them.
You said before that that he gets easily distracted and he runs away sometimes. You don't want her to lose him.
Right. Because like one time it was a visit and the ice cream truck came and I was sitting at the bench and so was Kaylee and he darted off. It was during Kaylee's visit and I told Kaylee, you need to go after him because he ran to the ice cream truck, which is like a little bit of ways by the in the parking lot where we were like in more in the park.
But during these visits, you're saying that he easily is distracted and runs away. How could you say that, like at Adventure Dome and the other time in the park, that it was Kaylee's fault for running away? He
doesn't run away like he's trying to run away from people. He runs away if he gets distracted. If he sees something, he might make a left because he saw, Mickey Mouse, or at Adventure Dome, if he saw cotton candy, he might see it and he won't tell you, hey, let's go here. He'll just make a sharp left and go to the cotton candy machine. But at Adventure Dome, she was taking him and she was running and he was just following behind her, running behind her, and she was leading him and he was following her because he knows that it's her visit. But he would always look back to make sure that I'm running after them. I will not do a park visit.
You've testified that Jaden has special needs,
mm-hmm.
and he's being treated by My Left Foot and through other people as well for
Correct.
ADHD and through the school.
Correct.
And if he wasn't being treated for those things, what would occur in your?
He would get injured. 100% he would get injured.
Would he be interested in school if you weren't on top of what was going on every single day?
No, he would fall behind in school. He would be injured. He would have lots of accidents. I mean, he still has some accidents because he's a boy, but it would be, I honestly don't think it would be good.
Would he be able to progress in school and in life without the assistance that you're providing him at school and through his doctor's appointments?
No.
And if these regimens weren't followed and done, you think that would cause him emotional, physical harm?
Yes. We have a good structure.
Will you or will you not follow orders issued by the court?
I will.
Will you or will you not continue to consider Jaden's best interest when you're making decisions for him?
100%.
And will you or will you not continue to provide adequate care for Jaden?
100%.
100%.
Yes, I would. 100%, yes, I would, without a doubt.
And will you or will you not continue to provide adequate medical care for Jaden?
Yes, I will.
And will you or will you not continue to provide adequate housing for Jaden?
Yes, I will.
And will you or will you not continue to provide food for Jaden?
Yes.
And we were talking previously about Kaylee's relationship with Jaden. And during these 4.5 years, has Kaylee provided gifts or cards for Jaden for Christmas?
Sporadically, nothing consistent.
And when you receive these cards or gifts for Jaden for Christmas from Kaylee, do you provide those to Jaden on Christmas Day?
No.
Why not?
She gave him Christmas presents in 2017, and those were opened at the restaurant prior to Christmas. We had a Christmas dinner together, so he opened up the presents with her there. 2018, no presents. 2019, no presents. And 2020, she had a supervised visitation Christmas evening, and he opened up presents with her there.
Beautiful. And so, what about for his birthday? Does he receive gifts from Kaylee for his birthday?
No. 2017, nothing. 2018, she stole a toy at Marvel's Adventure and gave it to him after we were leaving. 2019, 2019, we did a park. She baked a cake and brought like lollipops and a kite to play with at the park for him, but no presents. And then 2021 is this year, so it hasn't happened yet.
Well, let's go back to the incident back in
2020, yeah.
Let's go back to the incident in 2018. You said that she stole. Where were you and what happened?
It was at Treasure Island. So Rex, Jaden, me, and Kaylee did a birthday visit at the Marvel Adventure Station. And we got there. Kaylee had nothing in her hands. And we did I don't know if you've ever been there, but we went through the whole exhibit and took pictures. Then we spent time shopping, and Rex bought him a suitcase, and then we left. I think, if memory serves me correctly, Kaylee did put in like $20 towards that suitcase. Then when we left there, as we're going down the escalator, she shoves this Iron Man toy, a little stuffy, shoves it to him and says, "Here, happy birthday." And Jaden said, "I can't take this because you didn't pay for it." And so we left, and she goes, "Whatever." Then we parted ways, and then Rex and I took Jaden back up the escalator and returned it to the manager, because obviously stealing is not something we want.
What about, since for the last 4.5 years, has Kaylee given you any money for housing, for medical, for school,
No.
for food, for clothing, or anything for
No.
Jaden?
Not $1, except $10 she gave Jaden. I believe it's the February 20th visit of this year. She gave Jaden $10, and that was the only money she's ever given.
And when she gave the $10 to Jaden, did she say why?
No, she just gave it to Jaden. And then she let me know on Talking Parents app that I gave $10 for Jaden so he can buy whatever he wants, like food, I think she said.
When did you meet Kaylee? I'm sorry, when did you meet
Belinda.
Belinda?
I met Belinda May of 2017.
How did you meet Belinda?
I met Belinda, I first met her in person was when Rex and I took Jaden to Buffalo for a visit with her, to visit her.
How does that visit scheduled, if you know?
We reached out to Belinda and said that the CPS case closed, and I wanted Jaden to have a relationship with her, and since she hadn't visited Jaden since the whole time he was in Vegas, we thought it would be nice for us to take him to Buffalo.
Who was with you when you went to Buffalo?
Me, Rex, and Jaden.
How many days were you in Buffalo?
3 days.
How did the visit go?
Should I break it down by days? Or
Just
it was
tell me
okay.
how.
It went okay. It was okay.
I read somewhere about a fish tank incident. What occurred?
So I believe that was on the last the evening of the last night